How's it going, everybody? Hope you are well, and welcome back to Musings with Michelle. Now, the first weekend of the Modern Warfare 3 beta has finished, so I thought I'd do a video giving my opinions on the game, what I played so far, what I like, what I don't like. I will keep in mind that this is a beta, but it is exactly a month to the day until the release of Modern Warfare 3, so I think realistically there's not going to be too many changes in the actual game itself. You know, what we're playing now is pretty much what we're going to be getting on its release. So yeah, I thought I'd do a video on the good, the bad, and the ugly from what I've played so far. I haven't played as much as I really wanted to. I've probably got about 10 hours down, but the beta reopens in you know, was it 2 days time from now? So yeah, I'm going to get to play a bit more. But yeah, I thought I'd do a quick rundown of, you know, how I feel about the game after playing it for the first time. And yeah, talk about the things that I like and some of the things that I, you know, don't like quite as much. So starting off with the good, I think the first thing that I kind of have to mention is the movement. I think the movement is absolutely fantastic. Now, there is a kind of drawback to that, which I'll discuss, you know, further down the line, but I think in general it feels so much better than anything we've had probably since, well, to be fair, it's probably since Vanguard. I think the Vanguard movement was, you know, not too bad, but it's just the game itself wasn't great. But compared to last year, yeah, this movement is exactly what we needed. You know, it's a fact that you can kind of get around these maps so quickly, and you slide in. The actual movement itself I think is really fluid. The mantling is fantastic, and I think it will be really good in Warzone as well. That was one of the problems with the previous version, so I think the new movement's going to work great in that. But it does make the game feel more like an arcade shooter, which it really hasn't over the last couple of years. Yeah, especially compared to, you know, Modern Warfare 2, the, you know, 2022. I think it runs so much better, and it does feel like the game that probably, I think it's the game we probably should have got last year. That's what it feels like. You know, the game itself doesn't look too different from the menus, the actual color scheme, and obviously the actual theme of the game is still Modern Warfare, but it just feels completely different. And yeah, I haven't played too much Modern Warfare 2. I kind of stopped right at the start of the game, but this one does already feel a lot better. Hopefully pushing the game to a more arcadey style. Now, you did see quite a lot of people just sort of sitting in corners, but that's kind of expected. It's Call of Duty at the end of the day. Next up in the good, we have the weapons. I actually really enjoyed the weapons. I think the main one was called the MCW. Is that what it's called? Off the top of my head, I can't really remember, but it's the ACR. I like the color of it, first of all. I think it looks great. I like it when the guns just aren't just sort of like black and metal, when they have a bit of a different look to them. You know, although it doesn't feel anything really like the ACR from the original game, it was a lot different. It does kind of play the same, like it's kind of a laser beam. And I think once you get that 40 bullet mag in there as well, it makes the gun even better. But yeah, it's got a great iron sight, and it is probably the closest thing we've had in a game since the ACR. And that's a, you know, gun we've been asking for since, I think, Modern Warfare 3 was the last time we saw it. So yeah, this is kind of the closest thing we got to that. You have the Striker, which is the UMP45. Again, looks a bit different to the Modern Warfare 2 one, but you know, I don't think it was going to be a case that this Call of Duty is going to be an exact replica of the 2009 game. They are going to make some changes, as annoying as it is, because, you know, not only does it annoy me when like the iron sight can't be the same, because I used to love the iron sights back in the old CODs. They used to just feel, I don't know, they felt like they gave you more visibility in a way. And also, you know, they used to be called the UMP45, the ACR. It's only a small thing, but it does quite annoy me when you have a gun called like the Striker. But yeah, it's just a small detail. It's probably a legal issue. There's probably a reason why they haven't done that. But the weapons felt great. I think the pistols were pretty good as well. The Renetti was pretty good. And also, I really did like the sniper rifle that you got, the first one you unlocked. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I used it. I'll put some footage on screen of me playing on ground war, and it was such a fun weapon to use. Kind of a one-shot kill above the sort of chest. And of course, we didn't have access to too many weapons because it is only a beta, but we will have these weapons plus all the weapons from Modern Warfare 2. So I think it's going to be a good year for that, for the grind and stuff like that, because most of them felt quite fun to use. They felt quite unique. There was a couple in there that didn't feel great. I think the Scorpion, the Evo Scorpion, that I can't remember what they called it in this one, but that gun wasn't really that great. And then the first AR you unlocked as well also wasn't that great. But you know, a few tweaks here and there, I think it would be okay. But again, we don't really have, or I didn't have access to all the attachments because I didn't level the gun up quick enough. So, you know, who knows, once you put some attachments on there, it might be a completely different gun. But I think from the weapons point of view, not really too much to complain about. I think there's probably needs some balancing in some areas, because I feel like the ACR variant is going to be the most dominant gun in the game. And yeah, I think That might just be because it's like nostalgic or whatever, but and also it's the beta, so we had a limited, you know, selection. It was the first gun you unlock in the kind of default classes, but I think, yeah, that will be one of those guns that everybody uses at the start of the game once they unlock it. So yeah, might need some balancing changes there, but I think overall the guns, the small selection we had, were pretty good. And I also really liked the G36C, the LMG version, if it's called like the Holger, I think it's called the Holger. That was a really fun gun to use. That was really powerful, and yeah, from range not great, but up close it was very, very good. So yeah, a nice wide range of guns, and they all seem to have their own sort of unique properties, which it was kind of a worry because it looks like there's going to be over 100 guns in this game. So yeah, I think it'll be good to have some that really stand out and are kind of unique in some sort of way. Next thing that I really liked about the game was the nostalgia. Now, this isn't going to be the case for everybody because not everybody played the original Modern Warfare 2, but you know, hopping into Favela, into Rust, into Estate, and into, what was the other map? The other map was Skid Row. You know, coming into all these maps, it was quite an incredible experience, really, seeing them remade all these years later. And I got to say, they did a very, very good job. If you watch the side-by-side comparisons to the original and the new ones, I think the main difference is, yeah, it's not as colorful, but I think the reason for that is just because there's more light and more shadows. Like if you look at Favela, for example, it's quite a busy map. There's a lot going on, and that obviously creates a lot of shadows, and it kind of makes the map feel a lot darker than it was back in the day. And I think that's just because of the technological advancements. I think if they made it look exactly the same, it would be a bit weird considering that the rest of the game is going to have all these shadows, all this technology behind it. So I think they kind of had to update it to look like a very modern version. Otherwise, yeah, it would have been a bit off. But I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. The color, it is a bit annoying at times because we'll get onto, you know, a part of reason why that is. But for the most part, they weren't dark and dingy. They were still pretty colorful, but I think that the shading is the reason why it looks a bit different. But I think they did a fantastic version, making it sort of a one-to-one copy. It did feel a bit wider. I don't know, again, whether that's because of graphics or just in general, you know, they have more. I don't know what the reason for that is, but it did feel like there was more play space. You know, it felt bigger, but at the same time, I think that they did a really good job. And you know, I think this is something that would entice people to play the game enough, like that would convince people enough, just the maps alone, because yeah, we've only seen 4 of them so far. Next weekend we're getting High Rise, which would be great to see, but for the most part, most of the maps on the original Modern Warfare 2 were pretty good. I will say that the nostalgia did wear off after a while, and the rose tinted glasses did come off a little bit, but that is something that I expected. I did think that, you know, after a while we'll start to realize that these maps that we kind of grew up on and loved, not as great as we remember, because yeah, a lot of it's clouded by positive memories, but for the most part, these are obviously some of the best maps we've ever had, and compared to the 6v6 maps we've been getting over the last few years, I think these are head and shoulders above, even though they were made 14 years ago. And I'm very excited to try out maps like Wasteland, Terminal, Scrapyard. So I think they did a great job on the maps. The other good thing that I liked was the new perk system. It's kind of a reskin, like it still kind of worked the same way, but it's a bit different. I quite like it, you know, repackaging the perks in a different way to make it feel brand new, but also familiar. And it also seemed like the perks this time actually make a difference. Like it hasn't been the case really over the last few CODs that the perks really felt impactful. But so far the ones that I used on here definitely are. And yeah, I like the whole like boots kind of thing where you select different boots depending on if you want like lightweight, or you know, if you want scavenger you pick a different pair of gloves. I'm not too sure if it makes an actual cosmetic change on the actual character, but yeah, I think it's quite a unique way of doing the perk system, and it kind of re-energizes what has been a kind of staple in so many CODs now, and it's kind of hard to make it different, but I think they've done it in a pretty good way, and it's quite interesting. And yeah, it'll be good to see when the actual game comes out all the different combinations you can make, because yeah, it does feel like the perks actually give you some sort of advantage or disadvantage depending on what you've used. And next up on what I did like, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the game actually from what I played, and that's Ground War. I'm really happy it's back. I think it's a game mode that has to be in all Call of Duties going forward, no matter what the actual theme is. The fact we didn't get one for the World War II game a few years ago for Vanguard is criminal, because it's literally perfect for that kind of environment. But yeah, Ground War's fantastic. It's a fantastic sort of middle ground between multiplayer and Warzone. Gives you that Battlefield experience, which just, you know, mixes up the 6v6 monotony that you can get into. Sometimes you don't just want to play on these maps all the time. Sometimes you just want to have like a chill, you know, big battle, big large scale battle. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. The map, I think it's called Pop of Power, which is very fun to say, but also a very fun map to play. Fantastic for sniping. I really liked the sort of placements of the flags and things like that. I think it created some fantastic like little mini battle scenarios. Like trying to hold that E flag was actually really intense at times, because it's like a roundhouse. People come from all angles, and it makes it, yeah, really quite intense. But I really enjoyed my first game on there, and it kind of felt suitable to all kind of play styles. Like at points I was using my sniper, which I've probably shown on screen. You know, sometimes I was using sniper, sometimes I was using AR, and yeah, it's kind of suitable. It's kind of, obviously it's quite camper friendly because it's ground war, but at the same time, I don't think there's too many lines of sights that are too overpowered. It all seemed pretty, you know, accessible, and you can kind of see where everybody is. And long range sniping is fantastic. I like as well how you can get on top of pretty much anything on the map. Like if you want to go somewhere, you can get there, which is really cool. And obviously it is a part of the Warzone map, so it is kind of taken from there. But if that is, you know, what we're going to be getting for Warzone, I think it's a good indicator of what the map might be. I think it was a good combination of, like, you know, that modern setting, but also looking quite bright, quite vibrant. And yeah, I like the sort of levels to it, and you had the water part, you had the big buildings where you can go on like the ladders and the actual balconies and things like that. Gave some great vantage points. But yeah, overall I think the ground war was really fun. Yeah, I think ground war is going to be a really good game mode to play when you want something a bit different from multiplayer. So far it looks really great. We're getting a new ground war map this weekend actually, so have to see how that one is. But I think Pop of Power is a really good map, and yeah, I can't wait to play ground war. I think there's 4 maps at launch, so there'll be 2 others that we kind of see once the game comes out. But so far so good for ground war. And yeah, pretty much my final point on the good is, you know, it's familiar but new, really. As I mentioned, there is that large part of it which is just nostalgia based, really, because it is taking the old maps and bringing them into the sort of modern era. But it's kind of doing it in a different way, because, you know, we have Hardpoint, which to my knowledge, as I can't really remember off the top of my head, but I'm 99% sure that in Modern Warfare 2, the original, we didn't have Hardpoint. So playing Favela, playing, you know, Skid Row on Hardpoint game mode, it kind of gives you a whole different feel to the map. And maps like Favela play very, very differently in the Hardpoint game mode, but at the same time I think it works. You know, you're going to these areas of the map that you might not necessarily have really been. Like in Favela, most of the fighting takes place in the middle on top of the roofs, but you know, these hard points are on the sides and at the back, and it kind of, yeah, gives a different feel to the map. So even though we've played these maps hundreds and hundreds of times, it's kind of refreshing in a way, because we've got to approach it differently, and you're going to different areas of the map that you might not have before. And yeah, I thought it was very interesting, actually. I'm not the biggest fan of Hardpoint usually, but playing this game, I actually really quite enjoyed it. Yeah, obviously it's just a beta, so not a lot of people were actually playing the objective, but for the most part, I thought it was really fun. And yeah, like I said, it gives you like a different outlay on how to play these maps. Now, whilst we are on the theme of maps, let's go on to the bad. Now, I do like the maps, and as I mentioned all the stuff before, you know, I'm happy they're back, all that kind of stuff. But one thing I will say is that the visibility on some of the maps isn't great. Like I mentioned, Favela, it is really, really busy, and it's kind of hard sometimes to see where someone's shooting you from. And I think Estate is the worst out of the 4 that we've played in terms of being able to see across the map, in terms of, you know, getting caught out in positions, because it did feel like for the most part Estate is the weakest map so far, just because you could run around the map and just not see anybody. It is a big map, to be fair, but you know, there is you know, the main house should be real fighting's happening, and you know, on top of where the boathouse is. But yeah, you can kind of run around for ages and not really see anybody, and you just get shot across the map from a guy that you just had no chance of seeing at all. So I think that is one of the problems. But as I mentioned, I like the maps for the most part, but I think we'll kind of see that a few of these maps that are coming haven't transitioned well, and I think Estate is definitely one of them. The next up for the bad is the streaks. Now, again, it's a very limited selection, but for the most part, the streaks, again, just don't look great. It's kind of a common theme now with COD. No, the streaks just weren't that great. For example, the first one, the airstrike takes way too long to come in. You know, it's kind of like a Harrier jet in a way, but the Harrier doesn't stay. Almost like it's an airstrike, really. And you know, you call it in, and it's like a 6-7 second delay between you putting the target down and then it actually getting called in. So by the time, you know, your airstrike comes in, the people you've aimed it at have gone. You know, the original like Harrier airstrike, for example, it was pretty instantaneous. You put it where you wanted it and it would go in. So yeah, 6-7 seconds I think is way too long for the airstrike. And also the Guardian, you know, when you place it down, it kind of takes you out the game, and you can't do anything for a couple of seconds, and that's enough for someone to catch you off guard and kill you. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of how long the kill streaks take to call in. And you know, obviously they don't wrap as well, which is a massive disappointment. I used to love back in the day when you could wrap kill streaks, because it would just, you just go on like an absolute rampage, and you could just get the UAV, the Harrier, the chopper gun, or whatever, just back and forth. But that isn't the case on this game. You know, you go on the kill streak, you're on like a 15 kill streak, and if you want to get your kill streaks again, you have to just you know, die, you can't carry on. And also, it would be great if the kills actually contributed to the streaks like they used to. It just makes getting things like the nuke so much harder, which it should be, obviously be a hard thing. But I did used to like back in Modern Warfare 2, the original, when you could just get 7 kills and that could get you a nuke. You only needed to get like 7 gun kills to get a nuke. That was pretty fun. It was still very hard to do, but it made it a lot more fun. So yeah, it would be great if the kills actually contributed to the streak again. Another thing I noticed for the bad is that if you're kind of up against 2 players at the same time, it's very hard to kill them both. There was quite a lot of instances where, you know, you turn the corner and there's 2 people and you're shooting one, and by the time you kill them, the other person turns around and gets you. And that's mostly because of the 150 health. You know, the health did seem pretty inconsistent at times. Like, you'd be shooting someone at one point and you feel like you're melting them, and then the next time you do it, it feels like they're never ever gonna die. You can shoot them as much as they want. They're like the Terminator. So it is a bit inconsistent, but yeah, for the most part, I think every time that I kind of came up against 2 people, I just wouldn't be able to get both the kills. Double kills are very hard to get. They kind of had to both be like in a line or backs to you. But yeah, I think if you're playing with a friend and you stick together on these maps, you're going to have a very good time, because it's very hard to kill 2 people at the same time, especially when they're both looking at you. Like, you could, you know, on COD you usually can maneuver and get 2 people even if they're both looking at you, but I think I noticed quite a lot that, yeah, I would get one person then die to the other. So I think that's just a case of the new health system. So I'm not sure if it's like a good thing or a bad thing. I think it was just very notable because, you know, double kills used to be quite common back in the day. The weapon inconsistency, like I kind of just mentioned, you know, sometimes they feel like they're laser beams, sometimes you feel like you're shooting peas. Not really an in-between. That's the whole point of a beta, I suppose, is to get these fine-tunings done. So we might see a big difference in the next weekend when we play. They might have done some tuning over the last couple of days and, you know, getting these weapons more consistent. But yeah, I think for the most part, it wasn't that bad, but it was still quite noticeable. So I think they definitely do need to fix that. Another thing I noticed as well is the hip fire isn't great. And I think that is because of the new like tactical aim. You know, if you zoom in and press down on the D-pad, you get this tactical aim where the gun points sideways or wherever it is. And yeah, I think the reason hip fire isn't great is because they're trying to encourage this kind of new mechanic. And I don't really like the new tactical aim thing because it is quite clunky. You have to, yeah, aim in, then press down. It's kind of, it takes you out of the game for a split second, which isn't great when it's such a fast-paced game. And yeah, I think for that reason, I think the hip fire just doesn't work as well anymore, which it's not the worst thing in the world. I'd say it's bad just because I think, you know, they're taking the hip fire out and replacing it with a new system just to kind of force people to use that system. But, you know, it's just a learning curve. It's just something that I really did notice a lot in the first weekend of playing the game. Another thing I noticed as well in the bad is that you got shot in the back quite a lot. The spawns weren't great. Playing hardpoint on Rust, you know, hardpoint was never on Rust, so trying to get the spawns working is going to be difficult. But there was quite a few times where I just spawn and die straight away. It kind of did remind me of like back in the day. I wasn't too mad, but getting shot in the back is quite annoying when you're like, you know, going around the map looking for someone, you run past and then someone somehow spawns in behind you and shoots you. That's never great. So yeah, I think the spawns definitely need work. And I think the last thing for the bad is the kind of actual player base. This probably just makes me sound like an old head moaning, but I kind of noticed there's 2 kind of players really. You got those people that play every game like it's COD champs, and I've been seeing loads of videos on TikTok and Instagram of people, you know, getting clips, and I literally must just be old, but I'm watching it, I'm thinking, how can you move that quickly? How are you concentrating on all these things at once? They're getting like 5 kills back to back to back, and the screen's just not stop moving. It's just constant. And yeah, I could never do that, I don't think. No amount of G fuel in the world is going to make me play like that. So that's one thing I noticed. There's a lot of people that kind of mastered the movement already, and I think that's going to be a very frustrating thing to come up against if someone's like really trying hard, because I think this game is going to really punish you if you're not very good at it, you know, for the most part. Again, we'll get on to in a minute why that's not necessarily the case, but in terms of if you want to kind of hop on the game and just have a chill session, it's probably not going to happen, because there's always going to be someone in your lobby who's taking it really, really seriously, playing, you know, their hardest. And there's no right or wrong way to play COD. It's just very noticeable with the new movement, because I think if you master it properly, you can be very, very good. And it's just going to be frustrating for people that don't necessarily master it. But yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing really, now I'm saying it, but it's quite frustrating to watch, because yeah, you think these people must just be like, yeah, G fueled off of their head. And then you've got the other type of players who just sit in the corners And yeah, there was a lot of people doing that. Now, I don't know if these people are just kind of scared of the people that are doing the movement. They think I'm just going to sit here and wait. But there was a lot of people, especially on these Modern Warfare 2 maps. I've mentioned it before that, you know, there's a lot of positions where you can just sort of camp and get away with it. A lot of head glitches. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people were kind of utilizing that already in the beta. They've kind of found those positions or remember them from years ago already. You know, I didn't really notice a lot of people playing how the game used to play, but at the same time, the game that isn't like that anymore. It's never going to be Modern Warfare 2, so you know, you can't expect people to play like the game that it was 14 years ago. Gaming's evolved, the community's evolved, but yeah, I did kind of see both ends of it. And yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just for me personally, yeah, I kind of play COD in a chill sort of way, so when I see people like running around the map, bunny hopping, jump shotting me on the beta, kind of don't really like it. And then when I see people, you know, just camping in corners, laying down, camping, blending in with the background, yeah, that also isn't great. Okay, now moving on to the last part of the video, the ugly. Now, there wasn't too many ugly things, I'd say, in the beta. It was quite a well-run beta. There wasn't too many issues. There was a whole hacker issue, but I think that's always going to be a thing in games. Like, for some reason, people cheat and they hack. I don't know why. But in general, I thought there wasn't too many bugs, too many glitches, a few weird things here and there, but nothing that bad. And that might be the case just because it is kind of like a port from Modern Warfare 2. They've just changed the movement and things like that. But there's kind of three main things that I noticed, and it's kind of three things that I don't know if they're gonna... I think the first point could definitely get better, but I think the other two are just Call of Duty issues at this point. I don't think it's a Modern Warfare 3 issue, but it's definitely something that I noticed, something I didn't like. And the first thing in the ugly is the visibility. Yeah, I think it was very hard sometimes to see people on the map, and I think it's, again, I think it's the shading and the shadow situation, but I think it's also the outfits that the characters were wearing. Most of them were wearing, you know, normal soldier outfits that were quite dark, so I think they blended in. When the actual game comes out, people will be running around with clowns and shit like that, so it probably won't be as much an issue when the game is actually out. But yeah, I noticed that, you know, trying to see people is sometimes very, very hard, which is not great when that's the whole point of the game. And then the second point, why the visibility wasn't great, is kind of ended up shooting my own teammates so many times because it wasn't always clear who was on the other team, who was on my team. So if I was playing hardcore or tier 1, whatever they call it now, yeah, I think I would have been booted from the game within the first 5 minutes of me playing my first one, because yeah, there were so many instances where I'm shooting my own people. People do it to me as well, like you're kind of like sneaking around the map or whatever, and your own teammate would shoot you and just give away your position straight away. So they definitely need to work on that. You know, there wasn't too much visibility for your own teammates, which ain't great, but yeah, the enemies also were sometimes quite hard to see, especially on maps like Estate. There's sometimes where like it was like playing Where's Wally, like I could not spot anyone for the life of me. The second point in the ugly, and this is the 2 points that I don't think will ever change. The first one is the lobby abandonment. Now, I was really disappointed when I saw this because they did so many good things in terms of the lobby. You know, they brought back map voting, which is great. There's not a random map voting option, which is a shame because, you know, sometimes you do want to skip both of them. I think there should be an option to skip both the maps. But yeah, they put the map voting back in. They put the calling cards back in the lobby, which is just a small touch, but it's great. I do love little things like that. But the one thing I noticed is that after each game, the lobby would abandon. And yeah, that's just, you know, something that's been happening for years now. You get into a good lobby, you have a great game, have fun, and then it takes you out of that lobby, puts you in a new one. And that kind of moves on to the third point, which is skill-based matchmaking. Now, this is something that I don't think is ever going to leave Call of Duty. I think it's something we have to just deal with at this point. I'll put up a tweet on screen from Charlie Intel earlier, where he pretty much said that if you try and talk to Activision about it, even the employees in real life, they just won't acknowledge it. So there's obviously some reason why they do it. There is some sort of metric they're using which can justify doing it, because I don't know a single person that likes skill-based matchmaking, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of communication from Activision in terms of why they do it and the rationale behind it, but there obviously is a reason why they do it. So it's in the game, you know, that's why the lobby's abandoned, is because you have a good game, they pull you out, they put you with other players who have also had good games. The gameplay that you first saw in the video is my first game on the beta, and I had such a fun time with it. You know, obviously I haven't played COD for so long, so I think my account probably didn't have a lot of data in it, and they put me in a lobby. I was level 1, I used the default class, and I had such a great game. I had a lot of fun. It felt great, but then after that, ever since that first game pretty much, yeah, I've just been getting into these really sweatfest lobbies. I'm not even like that great at the game either, so I imagine if you're really good at the game, it must be so frustrating, it must be so hard. Yeah, I noticed straight away the skill-based matchmaking, the fun dropped significantly in the second game, and I started to notice things about the game which I didn't really like too much. You know, I think there will be cases of when you go into a game and you do really well and it feels great, But I think for every one game that you have that is really enjoyable, there's probably like 5 or 6 that aren't as fun. And you kind of have to go through that process, you know, to get back in the fun lobbies. You have to, you know, get obliterated and go negative for COD to be like, okay, let's put you in a different lobby, you know. Yeah, it is very annoying, but I don't think it's going anywhere. And I've seen so many people reverse boost already, which is kind of crazy considering you're reverse boosting for a beta. And yeah, the fact that people have to reverse boost to have fun is kind of a shame, but that's how it is. That's the game, and it's something that we just have to deal with. Hopefully when a game like X Defiant comes out, which from my knowledge doesn't have skill-based matchmaking, hopefully that gets a lot of positive reviews and a lot of limelight, a lot of publicity, and hopefully that can change gaming a little bit, because I noticed it not just in COD but other games as well. So yeah, I'm hoping that we kind of deviate away from this, but I think for the foreseeable there's always going to be skill-based matchmaking. Just hope they turn it down a little bit so we can have a bit more fun. But so far, you know, the beta was pretty intense in terms of people really trying, so you can imagine what it's going to be like when the actual game comes out. But yeah, that was my first impressions of the game. If you made it this far, really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you think of the beta. Of course, it is just a beta. There's going to be a lot of changes probably between now and the next weekend in terms of the guns and things like that, but for the most part the game's gonna pretty much stay the same. So yeah, what we're playing now is pretty much the final product and what we will be playing this time next month. But overall I had a pretty good time with it. I say pretty good, I had a really good time with it. I really like being on the old maps. It kind of, I think that is enough to keep me playing, honestly. Like, I think I'll be able to spend a couple of hours a day playing this game, no worries, which I haven't been able to do for the last few games. So yeah, I think for the most part I really enjoyed it. It felt really fast paced, the guns felt great, the maps are great. There's just little things here and there that I don't really like, and of course the whole skill-based matchmaking thing is always going to plague Call of Duty. But yeah, for the most part, I think we got a good game in our hands, and I think if the content's right, and I think if the sort of community feedback, if they take the community feedback into play and make positive changes to the game, make ad hoc changes, I think we could have a pretty good game in our hands. It's a lot better than what we've had over the last few years. So yeah, let's see where it goes. But for the most part, I'm very happy. I'll play it again this weekend, see if they make any changes, see how I feel. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the release of the game. And as I said, if you've made it this far into the video, you know, thank you very much. Let me know what you thought of the beta. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos. I'll be doing a lot more COD related content going forward. And yeah, again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.